My name is Flo Fu. I'm a musician, director. I love aviation so much. People started to call me Airflow.
I see the P-38 there. It's a German gun. Only officers could carry it. And on top of the hill, there was dead Americans and Germans all over the place. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. I couldn't believe it.
Understanding the historical context and the events of World War II help us comprehend the profound impact war had on shaping the modern world. It led to significant geopolitical changes, including the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers, the establishment of the United Nations, and the beginning of the Cold War. By studying these events, we gain insights into the origins of contemporary international relations and global political dynamics. Remembering World War II serves an educational purpose by highlighting the consequences of totalitarian, autocratic regimes, aggressive expansionism, unchecked nationalism, and the dissolvements of democracy. The war demonstrated the catastrophic outcomes of ideological extremes and the importance of safeguarding democratic values and human rights. By learning about the causes and consequences of the war and knowing the effects and dangers of political leaders who lead through fear, hatred, and lies, future generations can be better equipped to recognize and counteract similar threats, thereby promoting global peace and stability. We must remember the lessons taught by World War II. Our history will, without a doubt, repeat itself. To hear their memories. So it's an honor for all of us to have Mr. Frank Brown, Mr. Harvey Siegel, and Mr. Alfred Consigli here. Big round of applause for our veterans for the land service. It's such a treat to have these guys here to share their memories. So what we'll do is we'll go down the line here. Each veteran will spend about 10 minutes talking a little bit about what they were doing during the war.
So, they said, you have to swear an oath, you can't talk about what you're going to do. And they said, what you have to do is, well, they had the atom bomb test in the Pacific, and they said, the ships that didn't sink, they towed them back to San Francisco, and said, they're highly radioactive, and you guys are going to have to go aboard those ships. And you can't breathe the air on the ship, you have to wear a rebreather. And we go on board the ship every day, just about, doing different jobs. And when you come off the ship, you have to strip, take a shower, they go all over you with a Geiger counter. Oh, you're too damn hot, go back and take another one. You gotta keep taking them until we're down, going up, and then you're all set. So I did that for a year in San Francisco. And then they sent me up to Bremerton, Washington. And they had 3 ships up there, and we did the same thing up there. And we were real lax up there. So one day I saw this kid had a nice jacket on. I said, hey, where'd you get that jacket? He says, why, you want one? I said, yeah. He said, meet me at the pier when all the big shots are gone. So I did. So he said, let's go. And I said, where? He said, on the ship. I said, well, we don't have a rebreather. He said, who cares? Let's go. So I went on the ship with him. We went down in the hold of the ship. He said, see all those boxes over there? I said, yeah. He said, they're all full of jackets. Find your size and take one. So I did. But, you know, they never told us how dangerous that was. And, you know, we were young, we were going to live forever, and we all smoked, and, you know, so I'm still here.
1943, I was a senior in high school, and I was turned 18. I turned 18 in May, and the class was down to like 100 kids, and most of them were enlisting in the service. I wanted to enlist too. But I really wanted to graduate high school, which I did. During the month of May, I got from the Selective Service Committee, I got drafted. But I waited until June to go to the draft board. I went to I had to go to the Army base in Boston to get a physical. And during the physical, I passed all the requirements except for one thing. When I got to the height and weight, the examiner said to me, you can't go in because you only weigh 100 pounds. But the standard is 105. So you can be 4F, which was a designated classification for people that didn't qualify for the service. But I convinced them to put down 105 so that I could go into the service. And then in August, I got notified to a report for the service. I went to Fort Devens in Massachusetts, where I was indoctrinated. I got all my equipment and all my shots. And from Fort Devens, we boarded a train to North Carolina, in North Carolina there was Fort Bragg. That was what we was to take basic training. I finished basic training and then for 17 weeks. And then we came to Boston and we boarded LSTs. Now on an LST, it only takes about 50 soldiers, which we did. 50 of us boarded the LST. After we all boarded, we went up to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where we hooked up with a convoy. From Nova Scotia, we went into the North Atlantic in February. Now, the North Atlantic is not really calm during the winter. The waves were like 15 feet high, and the LST was not too big a ship. It was pretty rough. We used to have to tie ourselves to the railings in order not to get thrown overboard. It took us 28 days to cross the Atlantic because the convoy was very slow. We went into the English Channel and we stayed there for like a few hours. Meanwhile, on June 6th, the D-Day invasion happened, and we went into reserve, and on June 8th, we landed on Omaha Beach in Normandy, France. We didn't realize what war was, but when I saw those body bags, It really, really shocked me. We went into, we marched about 5 miles inland, and we came to a town called Treviers. Treviers was a small town, but the Germans were fortified there, and we had to stop, and we had to dig in and wait for backup. When I went into this place to dig in, Normandy is a country that it has hedgerows. I don't know if you know what a hedgerow is, but it's a mound of dirt about 6 feet high with trees growing out of it. Well, when I went into this field, I found a slit trench that was like two feet deep. It wasn't really deep. And I tried to deepen the slit trench, but I hit the roots of the trees that were in the hedgerows, so I couldn't go any further. When the shells come in, they whine. The whine is so intense that it shakes every part of your body. It wasn't just the explosions, it was the sound of the shells coming in. It brought me back to the fact, I don't have to be here because I forced myself to increase my weight. You know, I could have been out of here, but I didn't. This is where I'm ending up. I thought I was going to die, but fortunately, I survived it. And when I got out of the slit trench, I felt a sense of exhilaration because I had survived the shelling. When I survived the shelling, I felt, like I said, I felt exhilarated, and I volunteered for anything they wanted me to do. We had to, after the shelling, I was in a wire company, and we had to go out and lay new wire and into the fields or repair the wire. Down from Preston, we crossed the country of France. We got to the Belgium-Germany border, and for some reason it was very, very quiet. There was no fighting up and down the whole area. So they told us we were probably going to be there for a while. So we got to this town called Hack-Hallenfeld. It was in the middle of the Siegfried Line. Siegfried Line was a line like made of tank traps and stuff. But we dug in and we went into this town of Hackenfeld. We kicked the Germans out of the house, and we made bunk beds, and we made ourselves comfortable after a while, because we were going to be there for a while. While we were there, we got passes to Paris, 12-hour passes to Paris, and it took us 4 hours to get there, 4 hours to stay in Paris, and 4 hours to come back. It was pretty good. We had a good time.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Alfred Consigli. 14 years old, I wanted to come. I had to send my brother into the hardware store to buy this here rifle. I used to pick dumps. I always had a few dollars. I kept the gun underneath my bed. And then the next door lady, she was feeding her asparagus with a bucket and a ladle. She walked down, and I'm looking at her through the window in my house. Then she'd go back to that. She'd go back with the pail and put the ladle on the barn door. As soon as she went in the house, I started shooting at the ladle. You know? The barn door, there's a 1937 Chevrolet in there. Had dents in all the doors. But he didn't say much to me, you know. Yeah, she was a nice lady. Oh, I got a letter to go to Boston to take my physical. I was 17 years old. I never rode in a train in my life. I never was in a city in my life. I got on the train. Then I got so scared, I never took my clothes off if they rejected me. I was shaking, you know. I come running home. Mom, they don't want me, you know. So then when I cleared up, I went back again, and they took me in. And then an officer, I made a huge mistake. He says to me, "Do you like guns?" I says, "Yeah, I like guns." He sent me to Fort Knox, Kentucky, train on the tanks. That's the General Patton was from, you know. We used to keep the guns in my little kip. We call it a kip then. And we go down to the river, and I shoot bottles. Then I take a wooden match and go aside of it and light it with a bullet, you know. And then this guy, Eddie Wilson, his father was a cop. We were buddies. You'd think he'd have a good shot. One day I couldn't hit nothing. He took the sights and bent them over. Yeah. So I landed at Utah Beach. Then right away, it says, platoon adjust, tank number 6, shell HE, charge 5, fuse quick, base deflection 150, quadrant 321, fire one ready. I fire one round, he says up 10. I go up 10, cease firing, machine gun miss. 2 rounds, I knocked it out. And then, Sergeant Vecchio says, the officer says, go down this street here. You know what he told the officer? No, that's suicide. He says, all right, take the next road. We took the next road, and I was shooting the gun 30 inches off the ground, and all of a sudden we hear somebody, get out, get out. They knocked that tank out, see? That would have been us. Imagine that he refused an officer. He says, I'm not going down there, that's suicide. And stuff like that, you know. Coming over, and with my tank, there was a couple of other tanks, we're all firing at it, and it blew up right in front of us. I don't know why that German plane took a chance like that. Sometime when I was in the forest, we used to call him Dead Check Charlie. I used to wave to him and everything. He was a German. Flying over. Yeah, flying over to see how many tanks they had in the forest. Stuff like that. I couldn't believe it. And as they were flying over, the Germans were shooting one at a time down. I don't know why they didn't break formation, but they didn't.
I looked up and I said, oh, there's all officers and men in those planes. And you know who was in one of them? Bill Purple, he was over here. He flew 37 missions. And when I tell him about that day at Hurricane Forest, he says, I know, I was in one of those planes. He was the 13th plane to fly over my head. They never talked about the service, you know. I still miss them now. Yeah, the lady's handbag, and I made it there for her.
Rounds expired. Tell me about how many rounds expired.
Oh, I got, in this little book, it's a round of fire. How many were there?
One tank, 2,000.
One tank, 2,000 rounds fired in that tank. And I had 3 tanks. I must have fired 4,800 rounds into the enemy. But then it was on my mind, what do you think you're doing when you're firing into the next town? You're killing people. They used to go in with a Jeep and tell the people we're gonna fire into the town and you can take off if you want right now. If you don't, it'll be your consequences. After a while, we just shoot in the next town that never seen the Jeep again. I'm near Cologne, going down. He said, go up this hill. There was dead Germans and Americans all over the road, and we drove the tank over the American legs, up to the top of the tank, up the top of the hill. And then I went in, they had trenches there, like in World War I. And we still can't find out why. Jeff tried to find out, he couldn't find out why. They had trenches all over the place. I seen a P-38 there. It's a German gun. Only officers could carry it. And on top of the hill, there was dead Americans and Germans all over the place. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. I couldn't believe it. I don't even like to talk about it. Anyways, I took the gun, I put it in the tank, and then we had the tank on top of the hill, and the sergeant says, let's have something to eat. We had 10 and 1 rations. I didn't have no place to put my mess kit. There's a house there, I was going to put it on the windowsill. I looked down, there's a dead German there. I stood on his back. I looked down. He had the holster for the gun. He was shot on the side. I fished his pocket, and he just had his, he just got married. There's a picture of him with the swastikas and everything. I felt kind of bad for him, you know. I couldn't believe it. I still can't. Jeff tried to find out why they had those trenches there, but they were deep. Yeah. And then another time when I used to collect guns, I used to pick dumps, you know. I always had a few bucks. I got to see a gun, and I said, I'm gonna go show my friend. We went up to his house, and he had a little lake there. And I'm firing the gun at bottles and stuff. All of a sudden, the cops come down and took my rifle. They says the lady was washing dishes and one of the ricocheted. She was washing dishes. And that's where the thing went. They took the gun, they never gave it back to me. But all of a sudden we're sleeping in the tank, but I'm guarding the tank. All of a sudden I see a trace of bullets coming. Well, from Cologne. It went right over the tank. I kicked the driver, I said, back the tank up, back the tank up. He backed the tank up. The next bullet was 4 feet off the ground. It would have taken the turret right off. In 88, German 88. They were from Cologne, begin with a K. Sides all over the place, all dead. One time we pulled the tank in a farm, and I says to the guys, I'm gonna go on the cow barn to sleep. I went in the cow barn, no sleeping. All of a sudden, in the morning, I hear some noise upstairs. In comes an American. He had 2 German soldiers sleeping up there. And he says, hey, you tankers, look what we found sleeping up there. He says, they had burp guns too. They look at machine guns. I said, hey, I still don't know why I understand. I'm sleeping there with them, you know. Another time, I pulled into a farm place there, and they had weenies, big weenies. They were boiling there and everything. And then I looked down over there in the place there. The Germans left all their guns and everything. They just left. And so I had some weenies. I ate them. You ever see tobacco fields in Connecticut? She's seen them. And then they're firing into the next town. Vroom, 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 vroom. All of a sudden, an officer come out. Come on, we're pulling out. They want to be first all the time. We try to pull out, the mud went right up over the tracks. I couldn't move. I was happy. The officer says, leave the tank here, we'll send up a retriever. Boy, I was happy. I went in the barn. There's a black sedan in there. That was booby-trapped. And a little red convertible. I started that up. I hit a post, and it was made out of plywood, but with all like suitcase stuff all over it. I backed it out. I says to the sergeant, I says, let's take a ride. He says, okay. I said, where till I change my clothes? I put all my nice clothes on, you know, and everything. And I took the rifle, I put a hand grenade on it, a pistol in my back pocket. I says, let's go. We come over a big bridge.
Arch. Stone arch.
Huh?
Stone arch. Stone arch.
Oh yeah, stone arch. There's all these Germans and civilians, everybody in there, and I said, I'm gonna grab a girl. I said, you get in the car. She got in the car. The sergeant says, I want one too. I said, you get in the car. She got in the car. We took off. We still took a chance. There's still shells going overhead. I tried to embrace them. They're shivering. And I says to the sergeant, I says, let's take them back. I says, they're shivering. And he says to me, oh yeah, I says, they're scared. I don't know why they're so scared. He says, you don't? He says, there you are, you got a rifle with a hand grenade on it, pistol in your back pocket. Let's take them back. Okay, we start taking them back. All of a sudden, we see a Jeep coming. An officer, pull over, we pulled over. Where you going with these girls? We told them. Well, we're taking them back. He says, we heard about you tankers. As if we're no good, you know. He said, now take the girl back. We took him back. Then I waited about a week. All of a sudden, an officer comes over and says, "Corporal, you and the sergeant are battle fatigued and you're going to Brussels for a vacation." We went to Brussels. We stayed in a gigantic hotel. And there's GIs, hundreds of GIs all over the place. And I said to one of the GIs, "Where can we get a girl?" He says, "Go up on the second floor." We went up on the second floor. I started making arrangements. All of a sudden, I looked out the window. There's the MPs coming up there. You can't do that there. So I left it there. MP come by, he looked around. He didn't say anything. He went back. I went back to the hotel. And all of a sudden, an officer comes out. He says, "Men, you are an American soldier. The world's eyes are upon you. Remember, you're an American soldier. Act like one." Another officer comes out, "Men, we are gathered here, 2 American soldiers fraternizing with the German enemy, misbehaving on the front lines. They will be court-martialed." They read the charges against me. Said, "You were riding around the black sedan. If it's not correct, raise your hand." I raised my hand. He says, "Yes, Corporal." We had a little red convertible. They all start laughing.